This it could go so wrong. It's only unfair if you're losing them. Fuck's sakes. Biggest single motivating factor. Talk about a first impression. Did you know that there was one science-backed lever that you could pull that would dramatically change the likelihood of you winning pitches?
No way.
In this video, I'll share one of the key tricks that Missing Link uses to give us our 90% win rate when we're pitching. You know, I often hear agencies bitch and moan about how unfair pitching is. Here's the reality check. It's only unfair if you're losing them.
So mean.
Right? I would pitch all day long if I could. Heck, if you have a conference or a roadshow coming up that you need not to suck, absolutely ask us to pitch. However, do stop watching this video right now because I don't want you to understand our cunning move. All right, so when it comes to pitching, we often worry about the what, the who, the where, but we don't spend nearly enough time on the when. When. So let me ask you this to start. If you were pitching against, say, 3 other companies, which pitch slot...
What'd you say to me?
Pitch slot, not bitch slot. Bitch slot, what? Bitch please, what?
Did he just say what I thought he said? What?
Which pitch slot? This... it could go so wrong. Would you like to have? First, second, third, or fourth? All right. If you're like, I'd say, 50% of the audiences in, say, my decision-making keynote, you will have said that you'd like to go first about 40% of the time or fourth about 50% of the time. This begs the question then, who's correct?
That's definitely a valid question.
Well, it turns out, depending on the circumstances, both.
Ooh, I wasn't expecting that.
You see, there's one key data point that comes into play here, and that is how long after the pitch is the client making the decision? If the customer is making the decision immediately after the pitch, you want to go last. This is called the recency effect. And if they're making the decision after some deliberation, let's say a few days or a week, well, then you want to go first. This is called the primacy effect. Now, let me explain to you how these work. So one of my all-time favorite books is called The Psychology of Judgment and Decision Making by Scott Plous. And in it, he discusses a study done around closing arguments by lawyers. And in the study, there were 4 different groups of jurors that watched the closing arguments of 2 kind of legal groups. So the first 2 groups had to give their verdicts immediately. One of them watched them in the order prosecutor, then defense, and the other watched them in the order defense, then prosecutor. You know what I mean? Right, good. The next group, they did exactly the same, except they were approached a week later to decide on their verdict. So let's recap here. One group basically had to say they watched defense, then prosecution, and they had to make their response immediately. The second group, prosecution, defense, immediate. The third group, defense, prosecution, delay, verdict. And then the fourth group, prosecution, defense, delay, verdict. Make sense?
I think I followed that.
Right. So the surprising thing that the researchers found was that the biggest single motivating factor, and it made a massive difference, was deliberation time. When the jurors had to make their decision immediately, they found for the team that presented their closing arguments last. But when they had to delay, they found by a convincing margin for the team that presented first. And that actually makes sense.
Really? Again?
And it actually makes sense, right? So if we're deciding immediately, we're kind of going to go with our heart. And of course, the last thing to emotionally affect us was the one that we'd seen the most recently. Of course, that effect fades over time. And then we go with our head. And as humans, we tend to remember the stuff that opened the note in our brains the best. So the short answer is, if you want to know when to pitch, ask them when they expect to let you know who won. It's that simple.
Really? It really is.
Now, as promised, I'm going to let you know how we at Missing Link make sure that we get the slot that we want. Honestly, it's easy.
Tell me!
After I ascertain which effect, primacy or recency, I want to evoke, I use a version of this simple line. Hi there, listen, I'd really love to be in this pitch myself. This job is super exciting. Unfortunately, I have a keynote in Durban that afternoon. Is there any way that I could, by any chance, present first? Otherwise, no worries. I mean, I can obviously just send a member of my team. And of course, if it's recency I want to evoke, same thing, but my gig is in the morning. So I've got a gig in the morning. Then would it be at all possible? I can, get back in time to present in the afternoon. Would that be possible?
Oh, sneaky. I love that.
Now, do you know what I never hear? No, because why would they care? If I'm the only person asking, chances are I'm going to get it. Oh, by the way, guys, I usually add in a line like, oh, and if at all possible, if you can accommodate me, I'll obviously move my flights to make sure that I'm back on time. Okay, great. This, of course, makes it feel like I'm coming to the party. And then when I arrive at the pitch, I'm always met with, thank you so much for moving your flights for us. To which I respond, no, thank you for being so accommodating. Teamwork is dreamwork. Talk about a first impression. And we're already working together as a team.
Well, that's brilliant.
So that's the formula. Step number 1, find out which slot you want. Step number 2, give them a reason to give it to you. Now, a great related video for you to watch from here is what to say when a client asks for a discount, because this is something you can and should use to your advantage. So off you go, lead loud.